Hey everybody, welcome back to Auto Scholar with Mr. B. I'm Mr. B, and today we're doing this window regulator in this 2010 Volkswagen Touareg TDI. So first thing we have to do is open the door and get the door panel off. You're going to need some Torx screws and a flathead screwdriver and of course a trim tool to pry the clips out from underneath the door handle. Go ahead and grab those and I'll meet you back in the door panel. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is there is a little oval panel right here. Try to get in there with a screwdriver or a pick, whatever you can, and pull this out right here. And then you're going to see that there is some Torx bits down in here. I got a long extension with a T30 socket on here to get these bolts out here. Got to get them right at the right angle. You can just leave them in there until you get the door panel off and dump them out. Then we have Torx screws down here. We have one here and we have one here. That's it, just those two. They're T20s. Now we can take a pry bar or a trim tool. You're going to go behind this door panel. Very gently pull the clips until they pop out. Done with that, I'll lift up, pull this loose. We'll have this right here that you have to unhook from the door handle. You will also have some wiring that you will have to unhook from the door. You're going to hook this, unhook this right here, pull down, and then you'll have this wire right here that you unhook from the speaker. You just take this door panel and you'll place it off to the side so it doesn't get damaged during the repair. If the window regulator has never been done before, if this door has never been gotten into, you will see that you will have rivets will be right here across the top, and this just rivets this panel right here to the top of the inner frame. Apparently this has been removed before, so these rivets were drilled out and they were never replaced. These, from what I can tell, are pretty optional, but I'm thinking if these rivets are not kept in this door, you may end up with a rattle noise inside the door, and if so, you'll have to replace those rivets. But I'm going to probably put rivets in here when I go back with it, but the choice is yours. So we have all this wiring here. It runs through the door, and as you can tell, whoever did this job before just ripped this stuff out instead of doing it correctly with a trim tool. So this will come off. You'll have to unplug everything in here. So window motor, and then you're going to trace all this and unplug this, and what you're doing is you're just getting it out of the way so you can take this metal panel off. So we're going to do that, and when you go to put this in, you'll basically just push this rubber grommet in and move this and fish all this wiring through this hole here. That way you can go ahead and remove this panel here, and we can get to the window regulator on this frame right here that we're actually taking off. Speaker just unclips. Just hold these clips right here, just like so, and it'll pop loose. And these clip in from the back. A little bit of a pain in the butt. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this off here, these Torx bolts, and then we're going to flip the motor over to take these off. See, when you flip these on the back, they'll be much easier to take off. There we go, we'll get this motor out of the way. You just want to check the gears in the motor to make sure they're not stripped. These are a little warm, but they'll be okay. You can see here, here's our cable that has failed in this window regulator. So go ahead and take these off right here just to get this out of the way. And we'll go ahead and start taking off the bolts that retain this panel. And these are Torx bolts over here. When you go around, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 or so. Might have a missing 1 or 2 here. I have a couple more bolts over here. I'll go ahead and pop loose. Now we have to take this door seal, fits on this metal part here. We're going to remove it. You need to make sure that you get that, when you reassemble it, get that back on properly. Work this out. You want to push your inside door opener cable through this. Now make sure this metal is very sharp, so make sure you don't slice your finger open. There's a couple of wires that run through the back that clip in here. You just pinch these, work these through. Like so. Just gonna kind of push this out of the way. Where we can see the window regulator right here. Now we're going to take this seal just completely off, get it out of the way. Remember the orientation of where it goes. I normally just lay it out to where it looks like a door. We're going to push this through so it gives us a little more room. Like so. We're going to unplug this mirror right here. May have to use a screwdriver for that. Go. Again, we're just going to lift this. This right here may come off. This piece right here, which is fine. exactly what you want. Again, we can just set this down right here, and then we can see basically the window regulator that we're having to replace because of this monster right here. So we're going to remove this entire top of this door because we can't get to the window regulator because it's actually on the other side of all this bracing. So we have some Torx bolts right here. We have 4 on each that hold the frame in. And so give me a second, I'll show you where all those bolts are. So after you get this plate out of the way, there is going to be a T45 here, and there's a plastic cap right there. You'll pull that off. There's a T45 there, and there's going to be 2 on the end here. You have to go on the inside of the door and get, and you'll take those off. Once you get those off, this whole assembly right here is going to lift up. Now you need to have, this is going to be kind of heavy, so you need to have a place available to put this, and you're going to put this with the mirror pointing up. So you're going to put it, actually this is going to be the part that's going to be down on the bench that you have whenever you get this loose. It's a T45. So there's no difference between these bolts, but they're all, T45 and they're this long. They have pointed edges to help you with insertion. So after that, we're going to pull up. You'll see that things are coming loose now. Be careful not to crack the glass. Make sure that these are unplugged. Your mirror and your speaker right here are unplugged. I'm going to take this assembly off here. Work it around the door latch. We're going to carry it over and put it on the bench. Okay, so we have our regulator out on the table, and you will have 2 bolts here that holds these plastic foldovers here, and this is what actually holds the glass into the regulator. So I'm going to go ahead and take those loose. It's just 2 Torx bolts. They're either 20 to 25s. And so these will fold over. And what you're going to do is you're going to separate the window glass from these clips just by putting your finger in there. And kind of move them over. And you're going to push this out of this side. It's going to be harder to do than the other side. Be very careful. This one seems to be hung up pretty good. There we go. And you just push these clips out of the way, and then very gently you're going to manipulate this glass out of the regulator, just like that. And you'll put this glass somewhere safe so you can complete the rest of the repair. Okay, so got the glass out of the way in a safe place, and these clips right here you are going to need. So these yellow clips here, put those somewhere, make sure that they're not broken. Out of the way. And so now we have a situation that we have to deal with. We have these are riveted into the frame, okay? This one's actually popped loose. This is a replacement regulator. This has been done before. So whoever riveted this in back did not do a great job. All right, so we have, if your regulator is still intact, you know, it's not like this, you can take the guts out of your new regulator and kind of lay them into here. I don't really recommend this. The reason why is, you know, if this had the original regulator in it, this is 2010, so we've got 13 years on all these plastic parts, and there's just too much of a chance of it possibly going bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a drill bit and I'm going to drill off the head of these rivets, and then we're going to re-rivet this in just like Volkswagen did and keep everything just like it's supposed to be. You see this is bent right here, so there's no way I can do anything with this anyway. So so you will need a drill and a drill bit bigger than that hole. And what we're going to do is we're going to shave off that shoulder of the drill bit and punch that rivet out, and then we'll lay in our new regulator, re-rivet it in, and we'll be ready to go back together with it. So here's the bottom left right here, and I have this drill with this drill bit is probably a little bit too big right here. You want to center it right here on the rivet. These are aluminum rivets, so you don't need anything too crazy. Once you drill that out, the back side of the rivet will come out, and you'll just do that on all four corners. Okay, so once you get the old one off, you're going to put the new one in and line it up, make sure everything lines up. Okay, it's very easy to put this on upside down if you don't know which side is up, okay? So you will have one different end right here. You see this end that has like the almost is pointed towards the way up here. You want to put that in the bottom right here, okay? And you have this piece right here, which will be facing that way, and it has a zip tie on it. Do not take that zip tie off until you're ready to put this piece into the metal frame that we took off the first part of the video, okay? So we are going to rivet this back together. I'm using these rivets here. They're Arrow rivets. I just got them at my local Home Depot, and it is item number RLA3-16IP, okay? And these rivets have a long enough shank to where they are going to go through the window regulator, and they'll attach themselves to the inside. So we've got a rivet gun here, and I'm just going to rivet these in one at a time. Make sure you hold everything tight and flush when you're doing the riveting. So that's one right there. You're going to do all four, and then we will be ready to put this back into the car. All right, now that we have these riveted in, you want to just pull on them, make sure they're in good enough. We're going to manipulate this down a bit. We'll get our piece of glass. Slide this in here. Now we have these pieces right here that will fold in. Just going to sneak those in. Like so. Make sure they line up with the hole. Now you'll notice there's a little bit of adjustment in here, and I'll show you where we adjust these at. And just be very careful not to flex this glass too much. Okay, so I just leave these loose. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and slide this all the way up to where the glass is supported 100% by the frame. You want it all the way up, and then this is where we will go ahead and tighten the glass up with our Torx bolts that we have right here. Not too tight, just want to snug it up. Now we are ready to transfer this to the vehicle and get it placed in the door frame. Now, when we're placing this in the door frame, we're going to be looking for these pins right here. There's one right here, and there is one right there. And there'll be notches in the door where those pins go. So we're going to go in and walk over here to the car. And this notch right here is where one of those pins slide, and this notch right here. And we're going to kind of come in high and go behind all this stuff right here so we don't get tangled up in it. And it should rest right there on those notches, and then our bolt holes will line up like they should. Okay, so yeah, it's kind of a pain in the butt. So once we get this in, and make sure that everything's in the correct spot. Make sure the wiring is in the correct spot. And we're going to go ahead and put our bolts in. Now these bolts right here, these really, the ones at top don't have much of adjustment. These down here, you can kind of pull this in and out to make this frame fit either looser or tighter against the car itself. And I would recommend just finding out where the bolt was. Should make a witness mark and putting the bolt exactly where you found it. And you should see like a little mark in the paint where that was. And we're just going to put everything in by hand first. Make sure that you're not pinching any of the wiring. You have all this going on. You may have to jiggle this frame a little bit to get everything to line up correctly. Now again, we're going to line this up to where the bolt, the paint mark, is going to be the same where it was. And then if we need to, if this is off somehow, we can, without taking even the door panel off, we can adjust this through those bolts on the ends. So, you know, if it's not right, you can get it right later. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and start getting this panel ready to put on. So you have your zip tie still attached here. And what I recommend doing is going ahead and clicking this. This will click into this metal panel. And then once you get it clicked, just kind of move it out a bit and go ahead and pop this zip tie loose. And once you get that on, go ahead and stick the motor on, because the motor is going to keep it all together. Okay? Okay, so we are putting the outer panel back on. And so I'm going to show you how I do this, because it's a little bit aggravating to get everything back on and get everything lined up. I go ahead and I put one of the bolts back in. Now, a lot of this is cable management. You need to make sure that like this cable right here is up on the outside of the panel when you put it on. You also need to make sure that this is going to be able to be pulled out, put back into place. But the aggravating part is getting the regulator back through this, because it's not like you can pull this out and just snap this into place. So I put a bolt in here, then I kind of pull this panel out, reach my hand in there and guide it in. And then when you push this panel back up to put like a second bolt in it here, just make sure you have all this lined up here. And you'll see I still have my zip tie right here. And what I do is I cut the zip tie and I take a pair of pliers and yank it out. And that keeps this all together until you get the motor on. And then at this point, as soon as I get that zip tie out of the way, I go ahead and put the motor on so this is secured. It doesn't come unwound. But other tips are this harness right here. You have a clip back here that actually goes in this hole. And so that clip needs to be in that hole, or it's going to get hung up on the window when it goes up and down, and it can tear it out. So you need to make sure that this snapped in the back side of this panel, and so the peg should actually stick out right here. And then make sure that you have all these rubber seals and everything pressed in here correctly, like for the cable here. You're just going to go around. I put these in all by hand, and then I go and tighten them up with a ratchet in my Torx socket. And a lot of people do not put the rivets back in like it was from the factory. I'm going to go ahead and do that, though. I have a bunch of extra rivets anyway. And just in case this has a rattle or anything to it, I don't want that to be a problem. So I'm going to go ahead and put these rivets back in these areas where they came out of. So after you get that done, then all you'll have to do is put the plug up your motor down there like it's supposed to, and replace your door panel back into there. Just make sure that you get this in the correct spot. Also, another pro tip, I do this on any car I work on. If you're doing internal door work like this, before you shut the door on this car, I'm going to take something, I'm going to latch this door shut, and I'm going to make sure I can open it from both the inside and the outside door handle, and make sure you hear that click of that latch opening, because if you got something wrong and you shut this door and you can't open it back up, it's going to cause a lot of problems. So definitely want to do that before you go to close this back up. Just check all your connections. Make sure you plug your speaker back in, and make sure that this harness comes in and you put the rubber plug back in there so you don't get any wind noise or anything crazy like that. Okay, so I got the door panel just hung back on here. I don't have it fully attached yet, but what you want to do again before you zip everything up, you just want to make sure that the window is working properly. So we're going to go ahead and roll the window up. You want to listen for any type of crunching or binding or anything of this window, and you want to test up and down. You also want to make sure that all the other buttons on the door work. And again, before you shut this door, you want to take something, this extension is fine, click this and make sure that the door will open, that will unclick on the front and the back. See, now this would be safe to close because this door functions on the inside and the outside. Window goes up and down. So now all we have to do is just put the door panel back on and we'll be ready to go. And one thing I forgot to mention is, don't forget this door seal right here is actually a little bit easier to put on if you don't have the door panel on. But if you already put the door panel on and forgot it like I did, you can still put it on. It just slides into this little groove right here.